Hello, everyone, and welcome to our IBM OpenJS World 21 Deploy to Code Engine workshop. So we're going to do a few things today. I'm going to give you an overview and an introduction to IBM Cloud Code Engine. I'm going to walk you through deploying your first application to Code Engine using your container images that you've just built in a previous workshop. I'm going to give you an overview of what are all these things that we're talking about, what's all going on when we talk about Code Engine. And then I'm going to leave you with lots of resources. I'm going to get you set up with the IBM Cloud and Code Engine CLIs so that you can work through some of our Code Engine tutorials. Maybe you want to deploy batch jobs. Maybe you want to check out making revisions, deploying multiple versions of your application, things like that. So those are all things that we're going to cover today. So first of all, welcome, everyone. So this is kind of how I like to do my introductions. So feel free to share as well. No pressure if you're comfortable. My name is Jenna Ritten. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a cloud developer advocate with IBM. I'm originally from Detroit. I'm joining from Western New York at my parents' house while we're all quarantining and working from home. Something I love are my dogs. I have 2 Yorkies. Hopefully they will not whine during the session. I think they're sleepy because the weather's a little rainy. And a quirk, so something that's unique or different about me. So if you've come to any of my IBM developer workshops, you may have already heard this, but I have a weird obsession for tuna salad, sandwiches, tuna melts. So if you have any suggestions, feel free to send them to me in the Slack, DM me them in Slack, in the Slack workspace. I also judge an entire restaurant, all of their food quality on how much love or how little effort they put into the tuna sandwiches. So it's kind of my my level of measurement for all things is how well can you make a tuna sandwich. So a few things. Yes, you will have access to all of the slides. If you need anything at any time, like I said, feel free to reach out to me in the Slack workspace, and I have I'll have all of the resources as well if you need to get any of those. But all of the slides are available at the link here. We're sharing them with you in the Slack channel as well. So this is the Code Engine repository. It has a lot of really great tutorials and sample applications for you to run and really take a deep dive and discover all of the really cool features about Code Engine. So if you would like to follow along, you will need an IBM Cloud account. So this is the link to sign up for an IBM Cloud account. So before we get jump in too far, so again, as I mentioned, my name is Jenna Ritten. This is my cool Octocat avatar that I made at Universe last year. I'm a cloud developer advocate at IBM. I like to do a lot of different cloud native API stuff, work in React. I really like workshopping and really good tutorials. Feel free to connect with me on social at jritten on every platform, and check out my Linktree if you want to connect with me or find my YouTube channel or any of those things. So you can find all that kind of good stuff on my Linktree. So a few things I want to just quickly mention that I think would be really beneficial if you're looking to get your feet wet with cloud native fundamentals and cloud native application. IBM has these really great badges that are 100% free. The badges are free, certifications are free. You don't have to worry about, working through the course and then having to pay to grab your badge, right? So all of these are free. I've worked through probably about 25 different badges of ours. They're really great to add to your LinkedIn to show, proof of work that you've learned the fundamentals, you've dabbled and gotten your hands dirty in cloud native development, and they're backed by IBM. So they're really great credentials to earn. So the first one we have is just the IBM Cloud Essentials. The next one I have here are the Cloud Application Development Essentials. So giving you a good overview and introduction to cloud application development. The next one I really like, this is the Applied Cloud Development. So this is getting your hands dirty with, cloud native development, creating your first applications and dabbling around with our IBM Cloud different services and offerings. This is a newer badge. So this is, again, really getting a deep dive into everything from IaaS to SaaS and what the different cloud deployment models look like, public, private, and hybrid. So really getting you the foundations of being well-versed in all things cloud. And then this is a cool badge too. So this is Docker Essentials. So I know you guys just finished a workshop, created your first Docker image. So this is a badge too that you could earn to, like I said, add to your social to show, that you are familiar with Docker Hub, you know how to use it, you've built some images, you've created, deployed your container images and things like that. So this will really help you with some of those infrastructure pieces and being able to be well versed with getting containers up and running. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to do a high-level overview so that you're all familiar with what we're talking to today. So one of the things I want to preface is you'll really get to see the magic of CodeEngine and how easy and how quick it is to get started. If I started with that, we'd probably be done deploying your application in 2 minutes. So before we jump into that, let's just do a brief overview. So what is a container, right? Like it seems like this really abstract thing that like we talk about and that the people that are, we think are really smart that, have all the answers and know all the things are the only ones that know what it really is. So this is a really great image that I think. So we have virtualization on the left and containers on the right. So basically what you need to know is a container is just a standard unit of software. It packages up all of your code and all of its dependencies so that the application can run quickly and reliably from one computing environment to another. It's available for both Linux and Windows-based application. Containerized software is always going to run the same regardless of infrastructure, which makes it really, really flexible. So containers isolate software from its environment and ensure that it's working uniformly despite differences, for instance, between development and staging. So if you have a team, everybody has their own operating system they like to work on, that's totally fine because your application and all of the supporting runtime files are all packaged up and all running on your host operating system. So it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, what your preference is. So when we're talking about container images, what does that mean, right? So we saw what containers look like, right? So what's a container image? Again, and these are seem like really abstract concepts that, like I said, only the really smart guy on the team that knows everything. So a container image is an unchangeable static file. It includes the executable code, so it can run an isolated process on some type of infrastructure. So what it is it's just a lightweight standalone executable package of software. It includes everything needed to run an application, right? The code, the runtime, the system tools, system libraries, and any settings. So you might be thinking, well, this sounds a lot like the container that we just looked at, right? So take a look at this image. We have a container, and then we have these image layers, right? And we have this top container layer that's we have read or write access to. So what you need to know is container images, what we have here, become containers at runtime. And in the case of Docker containers, right, your Docker image becomes a Docker container when you run them. So in this instance, what we're going to work through is your Docker image that you just created It's going to become a Docker container when we run it on CodeEngine. It became a Docker container when you ran it on Kubernetes. So what's a container registry? We're not going to get too deep into this. I do want to introduce it to you. So if you use Docker Hub, that is a container registry. So a container registry is just a repository or a collection of repository that's used to store container images for Kubernetes, DevOps, and any container-based application development. CodeEngine being included. So when you're working with container images, you need somewhere to save and access them as they're created, and that's where container registries come in. So the registry acts as a place to store the images and share them through a process of uploading to, pushing, and downloading from, pulling. So in addition to container images, registries also store application programming interfaces, or APIs, right? We all know APIs. We're always like, oh, all the acronyms, right? So API is just application programming interface. These registries, these container registries store them, or image registries store them. They store the API paths and access control parameters. There's two types of container registries, public and private. As you can see here, this little purple and blue box at the top, you can use Docker Hub with container registry. You can use it with CodeEngine, but IBM has an image registry. It's called IBM Container Registry. So I will show you how to get that set up. As you can see here, you'll create a namespace, and that's where you'll be able to store all of your images. So what is Knative? So this is what it looks like, right? So we have our containers. We also have our functions, our serverless functions, and our applications. So if you look at our containers are running on Kubernetes, right? Our function applications also are. So actually if you're running OpenWhisk or Cloud Foundry applications, they're all running on Knative. So it's a layer, it's a piece of this whole process. Everything runs on Istio, and all of that is layered and running with Kubernetes underneath. So feel free to explore this. A lot of times, I like to show this just so you know the difference in compute options, right? So IaaS, right? We have infrastructure as a service, right? So think of like your VMs. We have containers as a service. Think of, Kubernetes, OpenShift. We have platform as a service. Think of your Cloud Foundry applications. And then we have, sorry, I lost this here, functions as a service. So this is like, for instance, this is your serverless, for instance. Sorry, I had a minor disappearance of something I needed. Okay, we're good. So what is CodeEngine? So when we're talking about CodeEngine, we're talking about, right, running those, your containers, your serverless workloads, right? So IBM Cloud CodeEngine can host any containerized workload in the cloud in a matter of seconds. So this could be web applications, microservices, your serverless functions, batch jobs. It hides all of the infrastructure. So all of the things that it's doing under the hood, so you don't need to worry about it. It manages, scales, and secures your clusters for you, your networks as well. A feature that I really like is CodeEngine will build container images from source code for you, public, private, repos, or registries. This is really cool. I'm not gonna have time to walk you through the whole thing today, but it is in the slides that I'm sharing with you. So you will have, if you'd like to spend some time later, like I said, it's really quick and easy, so it doesn't take a lot of time, but you will be able to do that with following along with the slides. I am gonna get you started so that you can easily do that if you would like to take your deploy your applications from source code. So definitely gave you guys a lot more than we have time for here. Code Engine, with Code Engine, we have two types of projects we're working with here. So we have the option of applications and batch jobs. And applications we're all familiar with. So just any workload that typically responds to incoming messages or requests, whether it's from an API or web request or HTTP requests. In a batch job, really the biggest difference with a batch job is it's not automatically scale. So applications, as you get a lot more or a lot fewer applications, Code Engine scales the application for you down to 0 if there's no request coming in. So you're not paying for, you're only paying for what you use. So if you don't have any traffic coming in, you're not paying for your application to just sit there. So with batch jobs, it's just executable. So when it's done, you dictate the number of instances. When the job's finished being executed, it just stops. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and jump in. And if you want to, more information, like I said, I have lots of notes in here, so feel free to take a peek. This is just a general overview of everything. So think of Code Engine as Kubernetes without all of the complexity. It really takes a lot of care of a lot of infrastructure details for you. And as I mentioned, it scales down to 0, right? So if you don't have traffic in, you're not paying for, you're only paying for your actual CPU and memory usage. So let's set up our dev environment. And again, as I mentioned, you only need an IBM Cloud account. You do need a pay-as-you-go account. Now, my understanding of this is with a lot of the crypto stuff going on, it's meant as a protection to not have the free tier be used and abused. But as you can see here, we have an always free pricing. So you have 100,000 vCPU seconds per month, 200,000 gigabyte seconds per month, and 100,000 HTTP requests per month. They are always free. And again, it's not, you use it up, you used it up, you need to start paying, right? As I mentioned before, when your application scales down, if you're not using requests, if you're not receiving traffic to your site, you are not going to be paying for it. And this is per month. So, if you're getting, if you're running a smaller application, you don't have to worry. But again, this is more of a protection for a lot of the crypto mining that's going on. Okay, so we are going to look at deploying an application from the Code Engine UI with your container images. That's what we're going to do. I also have all of the steps to do the same thing from the CLI. I like to work in the CLI, but for simplicity's sake, and I like to start with the UI for people that aren't familiar. So we're going to start from the Code Engine UI. Let me go here. So we're going to do this together. I deleted all my stuff. This is not a work account. This is a personal account. So, I upgraded and added a card to my account. Again, so I have a pay-as-you-go account. So we're all doing this together. Like I said, this is my work email. This is my personal IBM Cloud account that I created a few years ago. So let's hope the demo gods are in my favor for today. So we're going to search for Code Engine and go ahead and click on it. And as you can see here, you can get started quickly, run your application, job, or container on a managed. So this is a managed serverless platform. Again, so if you're interested in serverless, or you've been working with OpenWhisk and doing a bunch of things, this is basically doing the same thing, except it's going to auto scale those workloads for you. So what we can do is we can jump right in. So I don't have the image that you just used. However, as you can see here, I'm using a Docker image. So the first thing you're going to want to do is add your own image reference here. And as you can see, it's starting with the Docker IO. So you can go ahead and add your image here. And then we're going to click Start Creating. So go ahead and do that. Find your image reference, and we're going to click Start Creating. Now, as you can see, we can create an application or a batch job. Again, applications, you're running your code to serve HTTP requests. Jobs, you're running your code to perform some sort of task. They are the same, as we mentioned before, except jobs run to completion, whereas applications scale up and down. So I'm going to just say app, this is OpenJS. Okay, so we gave it our container image, correct? Then we're giving it a name. So it gives you a name automatically. You can adjust it to whatever you want. And as you can see here, we have the container image reference here. Now, the only other thing we need to do is select a project. Now, as you can see, I don't have a project, so I'm going to click Create Project. I'm going to select, so go ahead and select the London region. Seems to be a little faster right now. So go ahead and, like I said, this is Create a Project. It opened up on the right. We're going to select London EUGB for our project location. There we go. Name of our project, I'm going to say OpenJS World is my project. It already has our resource group, which you should only have default. As you can see, it's completely free. We're not going to get charged for anything. So I'm going to click Create. There we go. So, and if you have other projects, you can, select other projects too. I have some more details as well about, the best way to divide up your projects within your applications within your Code Engine projects and kind of keep things, organized and easily managed. But so we have, again, we have our name, our Code Engine project that we just created with the London EUGB location. And then we have our Docker container image here, which again, what's really nice about Code Engine is there's lots and lots and lots and lots of sample code. So I can do all of this with just the sample code. But again, you can add your image reference here. Maybe you typed it wrong, you can correct it here. We don't need to do anything else. One thing I would like to point out, so the registry access we have is public. So we're using a public Docker image registry. And then we have the listening port. So this is really nice. So if your code is listening for HTTP requests at another port, you can change that here, right? I'm not going to change this. So as you can see, we gave it 1, 2, 3. We gave it a name, a Docker image, and then we created a new Code Engine project. I'm going to click Create. So you can see it's deploying my application. So as you can see, I'm deploying here. I don't have any revisions yet. So what we're going to look at here while this is deploying, first of all, it was a one-click deployment, right? Again, we gave it a name and our container image. And as you can see, in the time I was just telling you 2 pieces of information, our application is deployed and ready. And as you can see, we have 1 instance. So this is the number of instances of our application that's running. And again, we can scale up or down. We can click Open Application URL. This will open our application. So this is just our Hello World from Code Engine. So our application is live and deployed. So it was really that quick. So all the other stuff I gave you was, to get you really familiar. And I really believe in, practicing saying things out loud and, teach it to me like I'm a 6-year-old so that I understand it so I can, explain what's going on in human speak, right? I think a lot of times as engineers, we do a lot of stuff, but we've never said it out loud. So A couple of things I'd like to point out. So we have our container image here. So for instance, let's say you have an updated image because you changed the UI. You can easily just change this here. And then you'll get, like, for instance, if I this isn't a real image, but what I can do is just save it and deploy. And then what'll happen is I'll deploy the second copy here. And I'll be able to switch between instances. Now, this is what I want to point out with our number of instances here. As you can see, the default setting, minimum number of instances is 0, right? So as I mentioned before, if there is not traffic going to your site, CodeEngine will auto scale all the way down to 0. So you're not paying for traffic you're not getting. You're not paying for usage that you're not using. And the maximum instances is 10. So let's say someone or something is hitting your site and just like spamming your site with requests, right? You can set the maximum number of instances here, to whatever you want it to be. So that if they're spamming your site, it's not gonna run up some crazy bill with, all of the requests that you're getting. You can manage what the maximum number of instances, maximum number of requests. So as you can see here, we have our maximum number of requests here. So this is maximum number of concurrent requests per instance, right? So what we're saying here is for each one of these instances, we want to accept 100 requests. So if you get 1,000 requests, right, it's going to stop. It's not going to let your site get 10 million requests. It's going to cap out and it's going to stop. It's going to stop scaling up. You can also change your instance resources. Two things I want to mention briefly. We have environment variables here. So what's really nice is, let's say you're building an application with Watson machine learning, AI, and data models. You can easily add those secrets here and inject those secrets into your application without having to store them in your Git repositories. So this is a really secure and easy way of managing and storing your credentials that you need to communicate with your other IBM Cloud services or chatbots, whatever it is that you're building with, and storing them in a secure place with all of the other information for your application. One other thing I'd like to mention here is you can see here, 0 instances. So we don't have any requests hitting our site. So it's showing that there's no instances. There's no instances of our application currently running because we scaled down to 0. Again, we could scale down to 1, so there's always 1 instance running. But again, it's going to automatically scale up or down depending on traffic. So if we, have, or if we're getting requests, it will scale up our instances to receive that traffic. Now, if you look at this traffic here, what's really nice about this, and a feature that is coming soon that, I'll be able to demonstrate at a fairly, a point in the fairly soon future, is traffic. So remember when we talked about revisions? So let's say I deploy 2 different instances of this application, right? Maybe I'm trying to do A/B testing. Maybe I'm trying to, do some A/B testing for features or a new UI. I can allocate that traffic to the different versions of my application. So I can put 25% to the old revision. I can do 75% to the latest image. So you'll be able to do this. Again, it's coming soon, not yet. There's one more thing I would like to do before I let you all go. So if you are interested in working from the command line, there's a few things you'll need to do. Now, if you look at the slides here, I really like our CLIs. You can really do a lot with them. So as you can see here, what I have for you is, let me just find it. Okay. So what I have for you here, and I just want to show you so that you can do this on your own if you would like. So there's 3 things you'll need to do. You'll need to install the IBM Cloud CLI, which again, I have all of the commands for you, literally click by click in the slides. So for Mac and Linux, here's the curl command. For Windows, here's the command to run, make sure you're running as administrator. Verify your CLIs are installed. Then you'll need to log in. So you'll just do a quick IBM Cloud login. You'll update your region, which we already did actually. You already have, so if you walk through the UI, you already have some of this stuff set up. If you didn't, totally fine. So you're just going to change your target region to that EUGB. You're going to assign a target resource group. So as you can see, you should only have one default. Mine is capital D default. So you can assign a target resource group with IBM Cloud target-G default. So you'll log in, assign a target resource group that we did here. So that's 1, 2, and then you'll install the CodeEngine CLI. And then that's pretty much all you need to do. The only other thing that you will need to do, the only other thing you will need to do is to install if you're going to use Container Registry, you'll need to install the Container Registry plugin, which I also have, steps for. But to get started with CodeEngine, like I said, all you need is the IBM Cloud CLI installed and then the CodeEngine plugin. If you have an IBM Cloud account, again, I have all of the commands right here. So you can update your plugins. It does take a few minutes. And then you'll be able to build something. So you can do everything we just did from the CLI. So create a new project, deploy an app from a container image. Again, we just did that. And then you can view the application. So it's really that quick. Create a new CodeEngine project, just like we did from the CLI. I'm sorry, just we did from the UI, right? That's what it looks like. 1 command, create an app from an image, 1 command, and then we'll be able to view the application, right? So this is a thumbnail generator here. And if you want to view more CodeEngine samples and applications, I have the repo here for you to do that. So congrats to all of you. You're not familiar a bit with containers, container registries, container images, what's Knative, what are all the things that are going on there. You have access to, as I mentioned before, the CodeEngine repository. All of the sample applications, including the thumbnail generator that I just showed you, is in there. If you would be so kind, I have a feedback survey for all of you. I would love to get your feedback. I'm going to be working on putting together a lot more CodeEngine content in the near future with some of the features that'll be in beta pretty soon as well. It's quick, 2 questions. It's not like a whole, you don't have to enter your name. We don't need your info. It's a very quick 2-question feedback. Feel free to follow us on all of our social. So we're on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, all the places. And if you would like to get connected, feel free to connect with me. Again, this is my Linktree. You can find all of my content, all of my workshops on my YouTube channel. You can get all of that information, LinkedIn, YouTube, everything from my Linktree. And again, I'm at JBritton on all social. So feel free to reach out to me. I can answer any quick questions if we have time. But other than that, I really wanted to get you all started. And like I said, everything you need to get set up, if you want to get the CLI installed, get working from the command line, if you want to do things from the UI, all of it is included in the slides there. I gave you way more than you actually need. So so feel free to check it out. And thank you all so much for coming. Thank you so much for your patience. I hope you all have a really great conference. And feel free to connect with me on Slack. I'll be hanging out in the workspace if you have any questions, and connect with me, wherever you want to meet me on social. I'm happy to connect. So thank you all so much.